Okay, guys. So, lesson 2.8, unit 2, lesson 8. It says use powers of 10 to estimate quantities. Now, what we're actually talking about here is scientific notation. So, I'm going to go through this as slow as possible. So, hopefully, you guys will grasp this concept without any problem. Our essential question: when would you use a power of 10 to estimate a quantity? Okay, so pretty much we're dealing with rounding. We got to do estimation, okay? So this is what we're looking at. It says in example 3 that the cars of the world are 1,020,000,000 cars, okay? And then they say that the cars in the US are 239,800,000. Okay, so what they want to do is they want to do a comparison of a ratio. And so what we're going to do is we're going to round each one of these so that you guys can see that, all right? So we're going to put them into round them, then put them into scientific notation, and then we're going to put them into a ratio. So here's what they're looking at. Right here, this actually rounds to 1 billion. Okay, so 1 billion vehicles, that's what we're going to round it to, especially because it's growing every day. Okay, with this one, we're actually going to round it to 200 million. It's pretty low considering if we were looking for something more accurate, we would want to go through and do a little bit more. But for this example, this is what we're looking at for the first time. Okay, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in scientific notation. Now, the way we do this is if it's getting larger, okay, in other words, we're going to go all the way up to where there's only one number in front of the decimal, okay, guys? And if we're going to represent a very large number, then the exponent is going to be positive. So in other words, what we would do is we'd do this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're moving it 9 places. So my 1 and then times 10 to the 9th power. So hopefully you guys can see that pretty well. So it's 1 times 10 to the 9th power. Now for the cars in the US, we're moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we put the dot right here, the decimal right here, and it's 2 multiplied by 10 to the 8th power. Okay. Now, because this is to the 8th power, obviously this number is smaller than this number. Okay, guys. So here's what we're going to do to put them into a ratio. So what I'll do is I'll put them over each other into fraction form. So 1 multiplied by 10 to the 9th power over 2 multiplied by 10 to the 8th power. Now, these exponents cancel each other out, which you guys have seen in another one, right? So this becomes gone. This becomes to the 1st power, okay? And then right here, I've got half, right? This becomes 1/2, okay? So what we look at is we rewrite it this way. It would be 0 and 5/10, because 1/2 goes to 5/10, times 10 to the 1st power. Now, this is not proper scientific notation. You can't have a number not in front of the decimal. So I actually have to move it like this. So it's like this, okay? And so this becomes 5 multiplied by 10 to the 0 power. Now, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this becomes 5 times 1, which is just 5. What that 5 tells us is that within the world of vehicles, there are 5 times more than the vehicles in the US. Okay, the world has 5 times more vehicles than the US does. So that's what we're trying to do here, guys. Okay. All right, so let's look at this a little bit differently. Okay. Over here, we have, and I started looking at the XLs because some of these got a little bit more difficult, okay? So we're looking at the XLs here. So here's what we're looking at. I wanted to show you guys what it looked like when we had a smaller number. So here's what we do, okay, guys? We would round this first. Okay, so we're going to round it to the hundredths place right here. That means we're looking at the 8, which because it's 5 or greater, we round up. If it were less than 5, we would let the number stay the same. So this becomes 0 and 6 hundredths. Okay, guys? But remember what I said. We have to have a number in front of the decimal for this to be proper scientific notation. So this time, though, we are going through and we are representing a smaller number. So I'm still going to count the amount of places. 1, 2, okay? So this becomes 6 multiplied by 10. And this, because this right here, guys, see how it's right now is a larger number than this? If I were to do this, this would be 60. That would not be correct. So the amount of places over becomes a negative 2. Now, if you remember from prior lectures, I talked about just because something has a negative exponent does not mean that it's a negative number. And this is exactly that type of example. This has a negative 2 as an exponent, showing that the number is smaller, 2 places smaller than a 6 in the ones place. Okay, guys? Okay, so hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on that one. And that is actually XL number 2. Okay, now we're going to go over here. Okay, now this one was especially hard for my students last year. Okay, and this is XL number 4. So when I do this, you're going to see it, and then you will see that you probably need to change numbers. You might get lucky and get the same numbers as me, and then I've given you the answer, which is not so lucky. So what they're talking about here is that there are 3 different cities: cities A, B, and C. Now with A, they give it to us in scientific notation. It's 2 and 6/10 times 10 to the 5th power. In B, they give it to us in standard notation. That's what's known as standard notation, which is 1,620,000. They tell us that city C is twice as large as city B. Okay, so what I did was I multiplied this number by here to get the population of city C. Now, in order to do this so that we can actually go through and compare city A to city C, because that's what they're asking for, is a comparison, I have to go through and turn this into scientific notation. So what I'm doing is this, guys, okay? I'm going to go through and do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and actually we just want 6 because we're going to put the decimal right there. Okay, so we're going to round it a little bit. So in other words, because we're going to round it to this spot, and because this is a 4, which is less than 5, the 2 stays the same. So this becomes 3 and 2/10 multiplied by 10 to the 6th power. Okay. Then we have this one, right? And that's what we want to do the comparison to. So this is 2 and 6/10 multiplied by 10 to the 5th power. Okay. Now, when you go through and you do this, you're going to see that this becomes 10 to the 1st power, cancels out, right? And if you divide these by each other, then this is going to approximately be 1 and 2/10 multiplied by 10 to the 1st power. Now, what we want to do this comparison is we need to go through and actually put this in standard form. So we have to multiply this by 10, right? Because it's 10 to the 1st power, that's multiplying by 10. That means it's 12. Okay? That means that city C is approximately 12 times larger than city A. Okay? 12 times larger. So that's it, guys. Okay? So make sure that you're going through and looking at this very clearly. Make sure that you guys ask questions in class if you don't understand anything. Please do the XLs over and over again so that you make sure that you get everything down. All right, guys. So that's the lecture.